Hey guys, it's that time of the month where I talk about the light novels I've read and if they're worth your time in reading them. Join me for some light novel recommendations.
That man and his manga.
First up, we are going to end a series that I have been collecting for some time, and a series that I have very hit and miss standards with, and it's one that you guys constantly remind me in the comments to read. That's right, I read the entire of, I read volume 7 and volume 7.5 of Classroom of the Elite. Now, I've had a lot of history with this one. I feel like every other volume is pretty good, and then the other half is pretty not good. And I bought up to volume 7.5, and I thought, you know what, I'll binge and see where it goes. Now, first things first, volume 7 was absolutely fantastic. It wrapped up a lot of plot threads. It was just so good. It felt pretty rewarding knowing that the last 6 or 7 volumes all led to this. And then I read 7.5, which was, well, honestly, yeah. Gonna be honest, I probably would have continued with the series had I finished on this one and volume 8 was available. Gonna be honest, 7 Seas, you need to get yourself sorted with this series because I still can't find volume 8 to buy for RRP. And that's pretty unacceptable considering I've had these for about a year now, just sitting on my shelf. So yeah, I was more than happy to buy at the end of volume 7 to go buy volume 8. Then I read 7.5, and honestly, that put me off because this one was just pretty boring. Gonna be honest. And this is the problem with the series I have. Every other volume, one's good, one's not so good, and yeah. At the end of the day, I'd rather have the space for something else, something that is completely good. But yeah, my time with Classroom of the Elite was very, very... I don't want to use the word, but I'm going to use the word middling. Every other volume was good, whereas every other volume was pretty bad. With volume 2 being probably one of the most boring light novels I have ever read. But, yep, that's my end of my journey. Maybe I might go buy a few volumes digitally, but I can't see myself ever buying any more Classroom of the Elite unless I get them for super cheap and I get the space. Watch this space as I start to look at selling them off. The next volume that I finished with, and it's another one that I'm pretty much done with the series, is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Now, big spoiler alert. In volume 4, at the very end, they get together. So it turns out that each volume is around a month worth of content. So they've known each other for 4 months. At the end of volume 4, they get together. Volume 5, because they're now together, you do get a lot of the whole kind of them doing stuff together. But I kind of feel like that's about it for me. It's very cute, it's very heartwarming, but I'm going to be honest, it kind of just feels now it's more of the same. Now, I kind of understand where people get on and say, oh yeah, they weren't together, the series wasn't going anywhere. But now that they are together, I'm kind of like, well, where does the series go from here? And because they've done a lot of cute content of them doing deity stuff before they were together, now they're together, it just kind of feels, I don't know, where do we go from here? And honestly, while I really like the series, I just kind of feel like this is pretty much a good jumping off point for me. That it's nothing against the series, I just can't see myself wanting to read volume after volume with kind of very little of a goal. I mean, I'm assuming the goal is going to be at the end they're going to get married, but I don't know, I like the series well enough, but I don't know, it just kind of feels at this point there's not really anything new happening in any of the volumes, to the point that I'm kind of just like, you know what, I might as well just check something else out. So, going from one cute series to another cute series, I also picked up volume 2 of Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. Now, much like Angel Next Door, this is quite a sweet series. The girl who sits next to the main protagonist really likes him, but she hides her feelings in Russian, but it turns out that he knows what she's saying because he understands Russian. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like Volume 2 was more of the same as Volume 1, and I kind of feel, if I'm honest, between this and Angel Next Door, I kind of feel that's my sugary sweet, over-the-top cuteness romance series kind of done with. I don't really feel I need to read anything more in this kind of genre, because if you like Angel Next Door, you're probably going to have a good time with this one. And you know what, they are both pretty great series. Another one where I feel like between Volume 1 and Volume 2, maybe I might pick up Volume 3, I'm not so sure about this one as much as I liked it. Again, I don't know, I feel maybe I was just a little bit burnt out by the time I'd read Volume 1, Volume 2 and Angel Next Door. It kind of feels like maybe they were all kind of blurring into one kind of over-the-top romancy cute thing. This one continues the thing. The main guy's cool, the main girl is cute. That's basically all you want in this kind of thing. It doesn't really try and stretch the imagination anything more than that. But I think it's pretty safe to say if you like Angel Next Door and you kind of want more to fill that void whenever there isn't a volume out, this one's going to be a good shout. Next up we have another one that I really enjoyed, and I was really surprised at how much I actually enjoyed it, and this is Volume 1 of Sasaki and Peeps. Now this is a more different light novel, so the main protagonist for this one is around 40-year-old. So that's right, we're actually getting, for a change, an actual adult main character, which is a huge breath of fresh air, if you read as many light novels as I do anyway. And he's feeling a bit lonely, so he decides to go and buy a pet. He discovers a sparrow, or sparrowbird, or whatever you want to call it, and that's going, pick me, pick me, pick me. It's talking. Yeah, so he buys it, and it turns out this sparrow is being reincarnated from a different world. And they come up with the idea, rather than him toil away in a dead-end job that's going to go nowhere and pretty much end up with an early death, well, they're going to cheat the system by travelling back and forth between the isekai world and the real world, and selling products in between. So sell products from one world to another and rake in all of the cash. However, things start getting a little bit mysterious as, well, Sasaki starts to learn from the sparrow magic, which brings him towards a bunch of sidekicks. And then he comes across a magical girl, and then more and more and more things happen. So this is basically one of those ones, if you've ever seen the series called Recreators from a few years ago, and if you haven't, do check it out because it is an absolute fantastic anime. It's very similar to that in some ways, in that it's kind of, it takes place in the real world, but it also takes place in the fantasy world, but then there's all of these genres just mashing together. With the main character being an adult, it does feel a lot more refreshing. For example, he's just like, well, I'm not really interested in girls because I got chlamydia over at a brothel one time, so I'm not going to just start having me way with all of these cute elf girls and stuff like that. But one thing I did notice is that pretty much every single girl in his life is underage, but he has zero interest in them as well. Yeah, it kind of feels rather refreshing in that aspect. One of the things that I did really enjoy was the neighbour. So he's got a young neighbour who is basically being neglected by her parents, and he's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, I can feed her, I'm going to give her a little bit of food here and there, but I can't really kind of invite her in from out of the cold because, you know, that could be classed as kidnapping. Or I can't really do anything more to help her because, well, yeah. And what I really quite liked about this is that every other character feels very young. For example, there's a lot of very young things, so you'd expect things, oh, magical girls, or going to another world. It's all stuff that's portrayed for young people to do. And then when you're young, you're all kind of like, I want to grow up. In fact, the neighbourhood, the whole thing with the neighbour as well, it's just like, oh, I want to grow up and kind of be away from all this. And then it kind of, you also know from Sasuke's point of view that being an adult is very lonely if you're in a dead-end job with a horrible life kind of thing. I really like this one. This is one of the ones where I got about 100 pages in and I went out and bought volume 2. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend this one. I will do a full-on review on this on the channel in the next few weeks. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Next up is Volume 2 of Apparently Disillusioned Adventures Will Save the World. Now, I did a full-on review on this one, I think it was about a month or two ago, as it was sent to me as a review copy. And you know what, I didn't really think much of it before I read it, and I really enjoyed it once I started reading it. So, you can go check out the video. I'll leave a link in the description probably if I remember for the full-on one of this one. But yeah, volume 2 is also very good. It actually goes in a way that I started reading, I was just like, oh yes, I do approve of this. Again, this one is about a bunch of adventurers. They've been scarred in the past, so they decide not to trust anybody, but they decide to kind of come together and have like a whole kind of group on doing stuff, and now they're going to start and face a lot of the demons from the past. There's a lot of great content in here. There's a lot of descriptions and a lot of meaty backstory. It kind of it did a lot less than I was expecting. I kind of expected once they kind of got the group together that it was just going to be, you know, your traditional party and adventure and stuff like that. But no, there actually is a lot of stuff on here. There's a lot of very in-depth character building and world building. So yeah, this is one I'm really looking forward to reading more of. I really enjoyed Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I'm really glad to say that if you enjoyed Volume 1 or if you didn't check out Volume 1, Volume 2 is also great. I think the anime is well beyond this now. I think the anime is on like Volume 3 or 4. I also heard that it's kind of stopped in Japan for now, so hopefully the anime being a bit of a success gives that little bit of a push, because this one is one that I genuinely do really like, and I think that a lot of you guys might like as well. Next up, we've got a title so edgy you might even just cut yourself while I'm talking about it. That is The Hero Laughs While Walking the Path of Vengeance a Second Time. Now, you can tell by this cover that this is going to be something grim, dark and edgy for the sake of being edgy, and you would be right. If anything this series does, it does that probably very well, in the fact that you are literally getting what you expect from the front of this cover. You are getting a series so edgy, it is absolutely lethal in terms of paper cuts. A young man is betrayed by the princess and the kingdom, and he decides, as he's given a second chance or third chance in life, I suppose, because he's on basically New Game Plus now, so he's got all of his abilities and what have you, he's going to go back and basically torture everybody. So yeah, it's basically one of these ones, it's basically torture porn. There's a lot of gruesome, over-the-top ridiculous shenanigans in this one. It's not a great series by any stretch. It's very justified in what he does. You are given a meaty backstory. It takes place at the end of the volume though. So one of the things that I did have an issue with is that at the beginning you're kind of like, yeah, you know, he's a horrible person. I can understand why they would betray him. And then by the end it's like, oh yeah, actually I feel sorry for him. Like I said, he basically just tortures and brutalizes this princess and then goes on to start taking his path of revenge. And yeah, there's not really much I want to kind of talk about this one. I will do a full-on big review on this one as well, but yeah, it's not the best, but you know what, it's not anything bad. It does what it says on the front cover, and you know what, I can't really hate it for it. It's like picking up a series like Prison School or Monster Musume and going, ugh, this has got boobs in it. Next up is, well, it's another series where the main character is killed at the very beginning and goes on to a second path trying to correct things. So we have just had the one where the hero goes back and gets revenge on everybody, but this one's a little bit more, well, they try to fix the wrongs, and that is Tearmoon Empire. Now this is a series that I feel a lot of people have hyped up over the last few weeks, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, the hype was justified. I really enjoyed my time with Tearmoon Empire to the point that I went out and bought volumes 2 and volume 3 because I got them super cheap. And yeah, this is a really fun one. And being girl, she is being led up to being killed. She dies, and then she goes back and is reborn as her younger self. And she's just like, oh no. Well, I'm gonna have to kind of change things to stop the revolution and me being killed. And yeah, I mean, we've seen this kind of presentation many times before, especially with a young girl. For example, what was it called? All Routes Lead to Doom. I can't remember what the whole series was called. I'll probably put it up on here. But yeah, that one again, that was another one that I really enjoyed. But yeah, there was just something really nice about this one. It was a very nice, chill read. And yeah, I really enjoyed the characters in this one. I really enjoyed the whole premise of her trying to kind of, you know, just survive, and just like, oh well, if I don't do this, oh, this is going to lead to me being killed by in the end of the next few years. So she's desperately trying to kind of correct things while avoiding the people who might kind of try and kill her in the future. It's a very good one. It was a very good one. I really like the fact that each chapter was so short as well. So there is literally 60 chapters in this particular volume, and there's only 332 pages, so you do the math. That is a lot of chapters, but it really works because at the end of the day, you can. I was sitting here just reading it kind of between doing something else, or kind of if I went for the toilet. Oh yes, you know, I can get a chapter done there. It's just kind of one of those nice ones where you can kind of just pick up and just read a ton of things. I really like it. Again, probably will look at trying to do a full-on review on this one once I've got the next few volumes up and read. Make sure it's definitely worth staying with. But I've heard nothing but great things about this series, so yeah, I'm excited for it too. Next up is, well, it's another volume 1, and this is another one I will have to do a full-on video on, and that is Your Former. Now, the first thing I thought when I just looked at the synopsis for this was like, oh yes, it's a bit like Psycho Pass. Now, I'm going to be honest, I liked season 1 of Psycho Pass. I didn't like the main character. Didn't like anything else Psycho Pass after that. But this one was genuinely good. So this is basically about, there's a smart technology that kind of, they have like, to kind of stop like this viral kind of things, to stop people hacking and stuff like that. And of course, there's all this detective work where they can kind of suss out what you've done or what you're going to do on the back of all of this. It's a lot more complicated than I'm kind of making it out to be. I mean, I read this one probably about a month ago, but yeah, it's kind of like diving into people's memories and kind of going upon the past, and it's all kind of that cyberpunk kind of, what was that one? Inception kind of thing. And I'm saying Inception when there was Paprika came before it. It's not as weird as Paprika. Paprika is still a fantastic movie. But yeah, I will do a full-on one with this one. This is another one where I want to get volume 2 and kind of just make sure and just go, yep, this is definitely worth reading before I kind of give a full-on judgment. But I really enjoyed my time with Your Former Volume 1. It was very in-depth. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the setting for being something unique in terms of a light novel. But yeah, overall it was a really fun read, and I would recommend at least trying it out. Next up, I reread a title that I'd only read a few weeks ago at the beginning of the year, and I picked up Volume 2 because I got Volume 2 for super cheap, and that is Volumes 1 and Volume 2 of Banished from the Hero's Party. I decided to live a quiet life in the countryside. Now, this presents itself as a more of a chill kind of title. It's not as chill as you might expect. In fact, I felt Tearmoon Empire, despite being kind of avoiding being killed, is more chill than this one. It's just kind of like, it's weird because this is about a character who, the main character, he gets kicked out of the party because his sister's the chosen one, not him. And he's pretty overpowered. He's obviously travelled with the party and done this and that. So he decides to kind of have a quiet life being an apothecary. And yeah, it turns out that the princess kind of follows him, and she also lives a quiet life. There's a lot of sickly cute romance in the air. In fact, that seems to be a very common thing that I am reading, a lot of cute romance. I think out of the ones I'm reading between this, Angel Next Door, and Alia, I'll probably continue on with this one, because both Volume 1 and Volume 2, they do the cute romance really nicely. They are a nice couple, and it's just the fact that it's in a fantasy world kind of is a slightly more interesting than being in, well, a teen in Japan, which we kind of see many times and has been done better or worse. But yeah, I really enjoyed Banished from the Heroes Party Volume 1 and 2. I'm interested to see how it turns out. I've heard that the younger sister kind of joins back with them, and it kind of becomes a bit more harem-y, which kind of is putting me a little bit off. But you know what, I enjoyed this for what it was. It was cute, it was relaxing, it had quite a lot of action in here, surprisingly. There was a lot of detective kind of mystery stuff as well, so I feel like there's a lot of stuff going in here, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to juggle too much and dropping all its balls. But yeah, this was a really cute one. I really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to checking out more, and I probably will do a full-on review maybe in the future when I've read a little bit more of this one. Before we get on to the last one, what have you guys been reading this month? Let me know in the comments, and has there been anything I've been talking about that you might consider picking up? Now, the last one is a title that, this is Volume 3, and I don't think I've heard anybody really talking about it. When this one was announced to be picked up, I heard a lot of people in the light novel community getting really excited. But when it actually released, I don't think I saw anybody even talking about reading it. And when I asked other people, they just kind of went, oh yeah, you know, it was quite a difficult read, or I didn't really like the main character. And that series is Chitose is in the Ramen Bowl. And this one is your teen, high school kind of stuff. So I'm going to be honest, I mean, I kind of think I'm a little bit old for some of these titles. The same with stuff like Classroom of the Elite. I felt if I was 15 to 20, I would have loved Classroom of the Elite. Now I'm a bit older, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of these kind of teen kind of titles. But Chitose and the Ramen Bottle one, I really enjoyed. I'm really surprised not many people are talking about this one. So this one, the main character is actually pretty popular. He is a popular character. Somebody said he's overpowered. But the reason that they said he's overpowered is because he has a healthy social life. Yeah. I don't really consider him to be overpowered because he's a normal person. I kind of feel like a lot of people are kind of starting to warp things into the fact that there's that many titles where the main character is basically a loner, or they're a loser, or they can't socialise. And people are starting to think that's kind of normal, whereas I know myself, I wasn't the most popular person in school. I got bullied because, yes. But I still had a healthy social life. I had a circle of friends, and I kind of would imagine that would be the same for most people. So I kind of find it surprising when people say, oh, this character's overpowered because he's got a circle of friends and he's got a lot of girls who actually do like him. But he is genuinely a good person. He's got a he's got a backstory. I wouldn't say it's a dark backstory, but he's got a backstory. But yeah, this tends to be genuinely one of these other ones where, you know, he's roped in by the school teacher to kind of help out and push everybody else forward. And you know what? It's got that high school thing, which I'm not fussed about, but I enjoyed this one. I don't know, I felt this one was more relatable than a lot of these kind of, oh, well, I'm going to be unpopular, or, oh, I'm super overpowered, but I'm going to pretend I'm not, kind of things. I don't know, I just feel like a normal person being normal kind of relates more than someone who sits in the corner and goes, I've got no friends. But that might just be me. Let me know what you guys think in terms of, is there any character that you would find relatable? But Cheatsy and the Ramune Bottle Volume 3 continues being good. The first half of every volume, actually the first 100 pages or so, they always feel like a slow burn. It's always, this is why I haven't really covered the title as a thing, because I always think the first time I read it, I was like, this is a bit of a drag, can't get into it. And then I kind of get the first 60 to 100 pages done, and then after that I'm just like, this is fantastic, this is so good. This is a really good series. I would recommend checking it out. I think in terms of pretty much all of these kind of lives in Japan as a high school, going to school, this one and Rascal Does Not Dream are probably the two I would probably recommend the most, except maybe Toradora, because Toradora is just fantastic.